What is up, party people? Welcome to The Cutting Edge by Schmidt Brothers Cutlery, a place where we can all geek out about the best knives on the planet. Today, I'm going to be your chef. I'm Joel Gammon. I am thrilled to be here. This is going to be amazing. We are making Bolognese with pappardelle, also known as bolo. Okay, you can call Bolognese bolo. Just want everyone to know this is a safe place to do that. I couldn't be more excited to be here, like I said. What makes this special and why we're teaming up with Schmidt Brothers for this is we want a place where we can empower you in the kitchen. You know, we know knives are intimidating, and you have a Schmidt Brothers knife, which is already halfway there. You have the right tool. The next half is the confidence, is the knowledge. And to walk into a kitchen with a little bit of chutzpah, a little bit of just pep in your step, knowing that your knives are going to perform, but you're also going to perform with that. And it's a partnership. So each one of these classes is about getting you that empowerment, getting you that confidence. And hopefully today is no different. What makes this special is that you can interact with us in real time. So you can ask me questions, I can ask you questions, and we have this amazing chat moderator. She is the producer here at Homemade. She's amazing. Hi, Mary. How are you?
Hello, and welcome to my favorite class of this week. Are you joking? Bolo? Let's go.
Bolo. But you're also, Mary has told me, extremely intimidated about kind of chopping and using your knives in the kitchen, yeah?
Yeah, I confessed this to you just moments ago. I love to cook, I love to eat, but I get a lot of pre-chopped stuff at the store. I am fearful.
Yeah, I get that. I think people are worried about safety, but they're also like thoughtful about their time and they want convenience. And the reality is if you know how to chop and you have the right tools, it's actually extremely convenient to cook. Beyond Mary, you can talk to Mary in the chat, ask her questions, she'll ask me questions. We also have Paulette from Schmidt Brothers, who, by the way, I've heard is like a crowd favorite. So Paulette, we're thrilled to have you here. Paulette's in the chat. I can answer anything about kind of the product itself. Again, a lot of us know Schmidt Brothers because we have Schmidt Brothers. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in this community. So we'll geek out about all things Schmidt Brothers, but also we're going to be talking specifically about the 7-piece zebra wood set, which to us is kind of like, I don't know, like if you're looking to kind of like revamp the kitchen, like the set to kind of begin at, like the base level, we love this. We love this price point. We love all the different things that each knife can do. We're going to talk a lot about it. So we'll dive into the set, but first we're going to dive into some bolo. I will say, for this very first thing, we're going to cut up some pancetta. And so I am going to use kind of different knives for different uses. And I'm going to pull a knife that you're going to be shocked by, but I'm starting with the chef knife. And for those of you guys who know, the chef knife is kind of like what's going to be doing 90% of everything you're going to be doing in the kitchen. Having a good chef knife is a non-negotiable. And for Schmidt Brothers, you guys know the right way, we'll talk about how to hold it, to hold any knife, but especially a chef knife, is a pinch grip. So you pinch the top with your thumb and your pointer finger like this, and you wrap your fingers around the bottom. Now, every knife I've ever used is not made for this, with the exception of Schmidt Brothers. So what makes Schmidt Brothers Cutlery different is they have this little beveled, kind of just beautiful rounded kind of edge right here that your fingers just kind of nestle in super comfortably. And this bolster, which you can do things like crack bones and get behind butternut squashes and things like that, is crucial. And they were so thoughtful in the design. This makes it so comfortable and that you have so much more power. So choke up on your knives, right? Rest your finger right in there, and this is what makes this knife superior in so many different ways. So we're going to start with the chef knife, and we're going to cut up some pancetta for bolognese. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what bolognese is, can I just ask the crew, what is bolognese? Do you know what it is, Mary?
In my mind,
okay, well, tell me what it is in your mind.
A bolognese, or as we're calling it in the chat, go bolo,
Go.
bolo.
Yes.
I'm loving it.
Yes, yes.
What I think bolognese is a meat sauce that explodes with flavor and is normally red.
Check and check. check and check. It's a meat sauce. It typically has a lot of pork fat, some beef fat. It's kind of, it kind of comes from Tuscany. I studied in Italy. That's where I went to cooking school. And it's a peasant deal. It's kind of like stewy. You toss it with a thick, beautiful noodle like pappardelle, so it catches all those little bits of meat. I love a bolo, but a bolo could also be vegetarian. So if you're not into meat, you can do mushrooms. So lots of versatility here. But we're starting with pancetta, which is the Italian bacon. It's rolled, it's not smoked, but it's cured. And when I cut pancetta, I like to freeze it for 15 minutes. I know that's weird, but it allows you to cut it a lot easier. And I use a chef knife for this because you kind of need to get behind it. With a lot of knives, you kind of have to saw, but you'll notice with Schmidt Brothers, you literally, it just kind of glides through like butter, right? And this is what freezing helps to do, but also a great knife to do. So I cut those into strips, and then I'm gonna cut those down. Now, this is gonna be kind of a familiar shape today, because I'm gonna take you through brunoise. Now, before I add to this pan, what the heck is brunoise? Sounds fancy, but who knows in the chat? What is brunoise? While you guys are telling me.
That's how you say it. That's how you
What's
say it.
that?
That's how you say it, huh?
Brunoise?
Interesting.
That's how you say it. What were you gonna call it?
I don't need to share that.
Okay. Fair enough. So I'm adding my pancetta to the pan here, and I didn't add any fat to this. So I added no olive oil, no butter. The pancetta itself is kind of our fat, and it's gonna add just this beautiful porkiness to it. I have to say a really funny story here. I'm gonna turn down my pasta water. But I grew up in a Jewish household, so I never grew up with Bolognese. And Bolognese, again, more ground beef than pulled. So I probably had versions of meat sauces growing up, but not pork. And I studied in Italy. So I got off the plane, I was 19 years old, and I was starving, okay? Starving. And I went to the first place I could find. I didn't care if it was good or not. And I walked in and I smelled something unfamiliar. I didn't know what it was. And it was pancetta rendering in a bolognese.
Oh, yeah.
And I just ate it. I'm just like, it's meat sauce. Great. I ate it. Guys, I haven't turned back, okay? This guy right here, Jews for pork. This guy right here. I love it. I am such a fan. If you are not into this, like my dad still doesn't eat it, which I love finding ways to cook for him, I would go smoked paprika with dried mushrooms. So I'll repeat that. I rehydrate the dried mushrooms, chop it up, and saute it with some smoked paprika, and it tastes kind of like bacony, really, really robust and deep and rich. It's a great solve for those of us who do not eat pork. All right, so I'm rendering out, which means I'm kind of letting the fat out, slowly but surely, of my pancetta. A good trick to do this is actually get your hands a little wet and splash a little water in there, and that actually kind of steams the pancetta and helps get a lot of that fat out there. How we doing in the chat?
We're getting all sorts of questions that Paulette is just...
Is Paulette on fire?
Yeah, Paulette's on fire. People are asking about the angle of the bevel, the knife. It's right in between the standard Japanese and the standard German. Why not? Best of both worlds.
Well, what makes this knife so strong, and we're going to get through some root vegetables here, it is German steel. It's high carbon percentage, which means it's just a very sturdy blade. So I'm glad Paulette's there. By the way, raise your hand in the chat if you think Paulette should come in studio physically with us and cook along.
That would be crazy.
We gotta do it. We need a Paulette sighting is what we need. All right, so pancetta's doing its thing. Now we're gonna get into kind of some of our basic knife skills. So we can absolutely use kind of the traditional chef. What's really, really nice about this set, the Zebra 7-piece, is you have this awesome santoku. This is really nice for vegetables. It's got a really good balance. Every single one of their knives, I mean, you should be able to kind of hold on your finger. Look at that. Well, hold on. Let me find the middle. There it is. And it has this really nice, even balance. I love the santoku because it feels a little bit more manageable as a blade when I'm going through soft vegetables. So really great for chopping and rocking, but I actually love it for chopping through vegetables. So we're gonna do a little bit of both. We're gonna start with an onion. And everyone always wonders why they cry from an onion. One of the biggest reasons is because your knives aren't sharp enough. So you're kind of pressing the vapors out of the onion versus cutting through it cleanly. And I always start with a paring knife. Obviously, this set comes with a paring knife because a lot of this you can do in your hand. So I cut off the bottom, I cut off the top, right? And then what I like to do is let this guy kind of sit flat, cut down the middle, and then kind of peel it with your knife. And this is what a paring knife is kind of known for. It's known for items that you do in your hand, and hopefully you guys are kind of getting this, but it really makes just getting that onion skin off really seamless. I'll do that again. And by the way, don't throw away your onion skins. You can freeze these, use them in stocks. So many options. I actually like to dry them out in the oven at 200 degrees. Like all these, I just dry them out in the oven at 200 degrees, and I blitz them with a little bit of salt. And you make your own homemade onion salt. Did I just blow your mind?
Yeah. Yeah.
You love that?
I do. I cook with my little garbage bowl, you know, if I'm cooking a bunch of vegetables.
We call it a scraps bowl.
Scraps bowl.
Because it's not garbage, it's gold.
That is so true. That is so true. And now it is gold.
Yes.
Here I am about to make my first onion salt this evening. Thank you.
I love it. I love it. And when you look at an onion, there's two sides, right? There's kind of the oniony side, and then there's the root side. And so we're going to put the root side away from us. And I'm going to start with the santoku just because I actually really love the angle of this and where I can kind of see where I need to go. And when we cut an onion, and we kind of want this one pretty small because we want the vegetables to kind of fade away into the sauce. So the way I'm going to start this is I'm actually going to tuck my fingers back, and I'm not going to cut all the way through. I'm going to leave the root together in the back, and I'm just using the very tip of my Schmidt Brothers knife, and I'm just cutting strips like that, okay? Then I'll twist it, and I'm gonna cut horizontally with my knife on top, my hand on top. Again, leaving the back together, and I'm gonna do that here too. Cool, and then you just kind of roll down. And you can see the shape of my onion is kind of matching the shape of the pancetta. Cool. This little bit right here, you can chop up, or you can freeze it with the rest of those skins, baby. But I like to just chop it up today. And you know, one of the things about Schmidt Bros that we also love, we're not perfectionists here. We're what's realistic. You're not a French chef at a restaurant where every cut has to be perfect. As long as they're around the same size, they're going to be absolutely stunning in this bolo, okay? So I'm going to go ahead, grab my bench scraper, Schmidt Brothers. You can pick this one up. I love it. And I'm going in with my onion right over that pancetta. How are we doing in the chat? Any questions so far?
We're talking shipping to Australia for these knives. Just
oh, nice.
all sorts of stuff.
I love that.
Schmidt Brothers cutlery ships all over, so we love to hear it. Folks also put sun-dried tomatoes occasionally in their Bolognese for some umami.
Okay. I love that idea. All right, so pancetta, onions in. I want to do one more onion just so you guys can see it. I'll do it with the chef knife, just so if that's what you're more comfortable with. And I'm going to do it a little opposite. Instead of doing the strips, watch, you can start horizontally. Don't go all the way through. Horizontal again. Don't go all the way through. And that just helps keep the onion together. Here are my strips. And
Joel,
then down.
Are you a crier when you cut onions?
What's that?
Are you a crier when you cut onions?
No, because I use Schmidt. And
exactly.
That's my point.
Paulette just said in the chat, the sharper the knife, the less likely it is the onion will make you cry.
It's unbelievable.
Awesome.
It really makes a huge difference. People don't realize it. If you do not have sharp knives at home, obviously this is a good place to start. But if whatever happens, you do start to get onion in your eye, I know this sounds really weird. Two options. One, stick your head in the freezer. Whoa. I know. Hardcore. Two, just go outside for like 30 seconds. But those will both clear it up.
Wow.
All right. Onions in, pancetta in. I'm going to go a nice big healthy pinch of salt. And that will just start to kind of release all the water. It smells unbelievable in here.
Yeah, insane.
And at this point, once kind of the onions had a minute and the pancetta's had a minute, I'm going in with two other meats. So, John, let's get a close-up here. There we go. We've got beef and we've got pork. And when I choose beef for this, I like the kind of leaner cuts of beef, like the mix of 90-10 or 85-15, meaning 85%, which is the actual meat itself, 15% fat, and it will say it on the package. I don't like it overly fatty because we're going to add a little bit of ground pork, which has some really good fat, and of course we have the fat from the pancetta. So I'm going in with all these babies. And we're just gonna kind of break that through the onion, the pancetta, and start working it. Yeah? Making sense to everybody? You don't need extra fat. It'll just make it a little bit of a greasy sauce. All right, I'm turning everything up a little bit now that I'm adding everything in. And I'm just, again, kind of using my spoon, and I'm kind of breaking it as it's cooking. And I'm gonna go with a lot of black pepper and a lot of salt on that ground beef and pork mixture. Oh, this smells just like the way like a hug feels.
It smells like my mom's cooking.
Does that what it smells like?
It was always a lot of like Italian, anything red sauce and with various rotating meats was sort of what it was in our house. This feels like I should be doing my homework.
Totally. And, you know, I'll say this is just pure comfort food. It's year round. Make this in the summer, make it in the winter. But the one rule that I have with this is a lot of recipes will call for you to use a food processor to chop up your vegetables. Don't do that. That is like the first thing Italian grandmas would slap your wrist with. The reason why you need to hand cut this is because when you use a food processor for things like this, it almost liquefies the vegetables, and that puts too much water into your sauce, and you don't get the texture that you're looking for. You don't get that bite, that toothsome bite of celery or carrot or onion that we're looking for. So really important. There's no shortcuts here in that way. The only shortcut is being confident in your blade, which with Schmidt Bros, we know we're gonna have a good one, and your skills.
Hey, what if some folks in the chat have deer and elk meat? Yum.
Come on, that sounds awesome.
In place of ground beef?
Yes.
Would that be insane?
Yes. I've also had like
Yum.
fish bolos. I've had cod. The one I would steer away from is salmon. It's a little bit too fatty for bolo, but like whitefish, like halibut, cod, swordfish, those are awesome. So you can grind those up. But I love the idea of some game. Chicken, turkey, killer. All right, so to recap, we started with some pancetta. We added some onion and some ground pork and ground beef. We've just been breaking that up. We're now gonna chop our next deal, which is celery, which to me, if you're just starting with knife skills and just kind of getting the hang of it, I think this is like the best. It's soft, it's controllable, it's long, so you can really practice your kind of grip. And the very first thing when I look at celery is the bottoms. You know, this is where a lot of dirt gets trapped. So I trim these, right? And again, we can wash them and use them for stock. So no need to throw those away. But we've got beautiful celery stalks here. And you can absolutely use a chef knife, but it is kind of nice to use a smaller knife for this. You can use your paring knife, but because this is a 7-piece set, there's a lot of other knives that you can get in this. And so there's obviously the serrated, which we're not gonna do today. There is a slicer, phenomenal, obviously for carving and things like that. But this kind of smaller utility knife is perfect for these kind of medium jobs. Where almost a chef knife, of course you can get through that, but this just gives you a little bit more control. And what I wanna do is kind of cut this in half, right? And then little strips. And you can see why this knife makes a nice difference than, let's say, a chef knife for this part. Because it's a little bit more like, you know, scalpel. Like there's just, you gotta kind of trace the lines here. So I'm kind of cutting them in half and cutting them in half again. I'm just
Joel,
keeping my knife really safe away from my fingers. Yes?
Joel, is celery typical in bolo?
Totally. It's got a nice sweetness to it, that kind of natural vegetalness that just brings, it's great. And this is, you know, these 3 ingredients, we're gonna do celery, a little bit of carrot, and some onion, is called mirepoix, which is just almost in every single sauce there is. So I've got these strips of celery. Sometimes when you have long strips of something, it's hard to hold. So it's totally kosher to cut these in half, so they're just easier to handle, okay? And this is a brunoise. Brunoise is a very small dice, okay? You can even cut these in half again. And the smaller you can kind of muster, the better your bolo is gonna be, because those vegetables aren't gonna go away. They're still gonna be there, but they're gonna kind of melt, like I was talking about in. By the way, I'm just gonna babysit our ground beef. I one time got this call, freaking out from my friend. They said, oh my gosh, I'm making bolognese and I burned the bottom of the pan. And the whole thing is smoking up. What do I do? So this is what happens if you kind of forget about it and it burns or scorches. Quickly change it to a different pan and continue to cook it, okay? Happens all the time. You just want to change it to a different pan, and that way the whole bolo won't take on the burnt flavor. That's your kind of get out of jail free card. I will never forget, this person was just freaking out. I think they were cooking for like a date or something. It was like the stakes were high. The stakes were high.
Was I the friend?
That was my friend.
I said, was I the friend?
I love it. All right, so back to our celery brunoise. We're gonna hold our fingers back, tuck them back, pinch grip. Again, this is where Schmidt Brothers is so beautiful with that perfect bolster, little nestle. And we're just gonna cut, kind of sliding our knife like an ice skate. Okay, this is not down. This is a slide, 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 right? And you can use the top of the blade, right? The shape of Schmidt has a little roundness to it. So it allows you to kind of sink into the board, just like this. What I would not use for this bit is the back of the blade, right? So top or middle is kosher, but what I want you guys to do is kind of stick to that and not go to the back. So here we go again. Fingers back, slide, slide.
Seamless.
Isn't that nice? It's like butter. And
Celery.
again, this is what makes the difference of a good bolo, is having a little bit of that texture. You can't just kind of breeze through it. And this right here is a beautiful brunoise of our celery. And you'll see I pick up our ingredients with the bench scraper because it just really keeps our blades nice and sharp. You know, Schmidt Brothers cutlery, they're double-edged. They're sharp on both sides. And you want to kind of keep that edge. Really, really important. So in goes the celery with the onions and all of our beautiful meats. And that's doing its thing. I'm going to put some of these back. I'm getting too geeked out over the knives. How we doing? Any questions, thoughts, concerns?
God, imagine if people had concerns in a Bolognese class. We are
Why
free
not?
spirits in here.
Yeah, and by the way,
Let's see, do you ever use a peeler on your celery to remove the stringy strands, those little annoying hairs
you know,
that come off?
in a salad I do, but
Yeah,
I
that
don't
makes
do
sense.
it when I cook it because the strands kind of go away. But in a salad, like celery with, for some reason, grapefruit works really well. So things like
Oh.
salads like that, I totally do because it gets caught in your teeth. But when you cook it, don't worry about it.
Nice.
I also want to call out, because everyone always says this, how gorgeous they look. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know another knife set that kind of looks the part you're very proud to display, and it doesn't take up a huge footprint in your kitchen. So I know a lot of us here already love Schmidt Brothers for those reasons, but that is a big reason for me. All right, next up is carrots. So we're going to brunoise some carrots. I did peel the carrots. You don't have to. Just give them a good wash. All right? And carrots are trickier than celery because they're harder. And this is where you need the power of that German steel. This is where you need that really nice, choked up, perfect kind of bevel for your finger because you need that control. And what I do here is I leave as much on the carrot as possible. So I don't just trim off the back. Okay? I leave it on because I kind of want every square footage to hold on to. But the first thing I see when I see something round like this is I want to square it. It makes it more safe, and it doesn't roll around my board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square this into planks. So I'm going to cut this into 3, just based off of this, and you can just see the control that you have with this. This is much smaller, so I might just put it into 2. Right? And I'm just confidently kind of starting in one place of the carrot, and I'm pressing down through. All right? Then I'm going to cut little strips, and I leave the back of the carrot together, all right? Kind of like the onion. And I just kind of press down. So you can see I hold this. The carrot's still together. It looks really funny. It looks like a French laundry pin.
It does.
But I leave the back together. It just kind of holds it in place for me, all right? And that's why I like to leave the root on. It's like a little handle. The precision on these are crazy. Carrot brings the sweetness. You know, the onions bring kind of that savory spiciness. And that celery brings kind of the freshness, which is really nice about the balance of all these. So I'm cutting them all down, and then it's kind of like back to celery land, where you kind of stack them up. You do not have to do them all at once. This is such a mistake. They see chefs do this at home, home cooks do, and they're like, I got to do them all. Just push them to the side. You're in control, not the knife, and just nice little brunoise. Perfect. Not perfect, but it's a beautifully imperfect little dice is what a brunoise.
We're really talking about all sorts of veggies in the chat. We have some folks who can't eat celery, and so they sub lavage.
What do they sub for?
Lavage.
Oh, lovage.
Lovage. You guys,
Nice.
why are you teaching me so many things in this chat today? I'm obsessed with everyone in here.
I love it. The first time, yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, in that same vein, we're wondering if fresh basil is typical in a bolo, or, and in that case, would we be cutting the basil, tearing the basil?
Wow, we're already on basil.
I know, we're already on
love
garnishes.
Fresh basil is not typical because, again, this was kind of peasant food. They didn't have basil running around the house. But you could absolutely finish it with a little basil. We got tomatoes that actually had basil in them. I'll hold those up so everyone can see that. You can see there's little pieces of basil in them. So these came in the canned tomatoes that we bought. So that's a nice cheat these days, and not having to go buy, $5 basil. So totally up to you. All right, so we've got a nice brunoise, beautiful. Look at that. Doesn't that look great? Again, not perfect. There's little pieces that are flat, little pieces that are big, but they're around the same size, which for cooking is really important. This is why we invest in our tools, is because we want things to kind of cook at the same rate. Okay, this looks amazing. Last but not least is our garlic, which I'm a garlic hound. There's not enough garlic in my life, ever. Ever, okay? Garlic is my jam forever, and I will say it has to be fresh garlic. What do they call? Have you heard of jarlic?
Oh, yeah. Oh, unfortunately, yes.
Have you used it?
Unfortunately, I have.
Okay.
I haven't used it in the last 10 years or so, but I can still smell and resent that jar in my fridge.
It's not like, listen, I'm not going to leave the house if someone makes me something with jarlic, but it really falls flat from an aroma standpoint, from a spice level standpoint. It just doesn't bring the punch that fresh garlic does. So it's just worth prepping it. And again, it's one of those things that you need the right tools to do. So start with a whole head of garlic. I lean on it, which for me is a good amount of weight. And you kind of break them up. And I want, for this puppy, we're going to do 4 cloves. And there's so many ways to take the peel off. But when you have a wide, beautiful chef knife, like Schmidt Brothers, that's what you use. Okay, so I'm getting rid of all these papers, putting them with my onion scraps, all my other scraps.
For our gorgeous stock later.
I know, the stock is going to happen.
I can't wait.
So the way I handle our garlic is I've got our clove, and I do a light crack with our nice wide blade. So a light crack, and I peel. Okay, so there's your light crack. Let's do it again. Light crack, peel. This is it. This is how every chef's doing it. You'll see a lot of tips on social media about grab 2 bowls or microwave them, or there's a million hacks on how you can peel garlic. Some of them work, but the easiest, fastest way always comes back to have a really nice, heavy, sturdy chef knife is always the move. All right, so we've got our garlic cloves. Now, when I see these garlic cloves, I get PTSD because I used to work at a restaurant. And I don't know if we can pick this up on the camera. I'm going to try, but do you guys see these little green threads through the garlic? It's tough. You're going to zoom in? All right, let's see. John's going to zoom in and see if you guys can see this. Some garlic has these little bits in there, okay? This is what gives people gas. This is what has tough for people to digest. So it's nice if you have the right paring knife to get in there and just grab it and remove it.
No
See
way.
how that just kind of comes out? And that's connected to the root. All right, so go into the garlic. This one's got a little one. Again, you kind of have to dig in. This is why a solid paring knife like Schmidt Brothers matters. If it doesn't have it, don't worry about it. This one looks good. This one looks like it needs a little bit of a trim.
So is that just because that the garlic has been out for a couple days? Is it younger garlic?
Good
Doesn't
question.
have
It's
that in the
actually
middle?
older garlic when it's like that. It actually
Got it.
means that it's had some time to kind of continue to grow.
Nice.
But it doesn't, the age is not so much. It's just sometimes they have it, right? You can't have full garlic control at the grocery store. So then at this stage, you can use your chef knife and give it a smash. When I do this, my knife is off I'm sorry, not my knife. My hand is off the board. And this is important in terms of the balance. Their chef knives have a full tang, which means the blade goes all the way through. The steel goes all the way through to the back. Some of them are separate pieces when you get cheap knives or bad knives. So you have steel up here connected to a second piece here and a third piece here. This is one piece of metal, which makes it super sturdy for things like this. So I just give it a smashy poo, right off.
And that's a technical term, smashy poo.
Smashy poo is very technical. All right, and then once you're kind of smashed, I grab some salt. We'll go back to the board here, John. And I just salted these. I'll go a little bit more. And I grab my knife, and this is kind of your rock chop. So I'm gonna put my hand down, and I'm not gonna pinch it anymore. I'm gonna move back to the blade, because this is where you kind of want that vibe. And this would actually be great. We're here, let's just do it, for the santoku. This is what the santoku is made for, is that shape. So your hand stays sturdy, and you just kind of rock through. And we do this in the bolo because the more you chop up your garlic into like a little paste like this, it just goes through every bite of pasta, and it's just incredible. It just really, really perfumes the dish and gives it that hum that garlic does. So once you're kind of at this moment of having the garlic pretty chopped, I take our full blade and I smear. You can only do this with sturdy knives, okay? And I just kind of break this down. You can see the salt is drawing out the moisture of the garlic, making a paste. And I just literally concentrate the garlic into this umami bomb. Look at this.
Hey, Joel, does it matter if we do this on a wood cutting board, plastic board?
It does not matter, but wood is always preferable, even for meats. I know that's very controversial for people, but it has some really great properties that disinfect naturally, but it allows for your knife to kind of sink into it. So I'm always a wood guy. Also, I think it looks sexy.
Yeah.
And in goes the garlic.
Wow, what a paste. What a paste.
What a paste. I love it. All right. So garlic is in, onions are in. Let's just recap real quick everything that's in this pan. So we started with some pancetta, that's the base of our bolognese. We added some onion and some ground pork, ground beef. Then we went with celery, carrots, and you can see the chunks in them. That's the brunoise. See why this matters. You can't just grind this. This has to be hand chopped. And then we folded in some hand crushed garlic paste, which is just the bomb diggity. So these go away. This is not in the recipe, but I hate throwing food away. So this recipe calls for Parmesan. This is a really good time to grab a nice heavy knife, chef knife, great, and just take the rind of the Parmesan off, right? And you can break it if you want and toss that in. That's going right in. Can we, flash to that. And that's just gonna kind of simmer and add this really beautiful kind of background depth to our sauce. So while this is going, just for a minute, I am gonna drop our pasta. We're using pappardelle today. Pasta is like wine. It pairs with certain foods, right? So you want certain pastas with certain sauces, okay? And for this sauce, you want anything that's gonna catch the meat. So I like round shapes for this, like rigatoni, which has the tubes. I like orchietti, which is like the little ears, and they have like a little cup that kind of catches it. And I love a thick pasta like pappardelle, like this one. This one's about as thick as my finger, and they're velvety, and they're just like this massive diving board for all this gorgeous
That's
flavor.
amazing. Into this pool of flavor, a diving board.
I love it.
Gorgeous.
So I've got a big pot of boiling water. We're gonna go with lots of salt. You salt it like the sea. You're not going to eat all that salt. Don't worry. It's going to fall off the pasta, but it's going to season it. And then in we go for about 5 minutes.
In the spirit of scrappiness here in the chat, folks are saying that they freeze their extra cheese rinds as well, just to add. And occasionally you just need a parm rind in there. Why not?
Absolutely. All right, into this. Next up, we've got some tomato paste and some bay leaf. And we're just going to kind of stir that in. And you just want to cook the tomato paste for about 1 minute when you do things. This is called perching. And this cooks out kind of the rawness of tomato paste, and it makes it this gorgeous brick color and gives the whole vibe of this bolo super richness. It's like caramel. It just adds like layers. So we just let that go. And then you'll notice on the bottom of our pan, this is not burnt. These are all the little bits stuck to the bottom. Can we go to a top down? There we go. See that bit? That's what we want to get off the pan. So we're going to deglaze this with a little bit of white wine. I love it. And I know this is crazy, but it's very traditional. Some milk.
Whoa.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And when you add those things, you kind of just scrape. You just go to town, all right? And you clean the bottom of the pan, and you just let that liquid scoop and deglaze every little last bit. And this is what makes, look at this sauce. It's just like happening before our eyes. This makes it so flavorful, like just a bomb in your mouth of flavor. Doesn't that look already beautiful?
It's insane.
It's crazy.
Does the milk sort of, mess
Enrich
with the
it?
cheese, enrich it? Like, do people use cream?
You can use cream if you want it a little bit more rich, but milk has that, kind of fine balance of not being overly rich. Just gives it a little something to
little
stick
body,
to the pasta.
little
a little body, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We've got some tomatoes, San Marzano, if you can find them. And these have a little bit of basil in them, like I said. I always look at the package and make sure there's no salt in my tomatoes. A lot of them have salt now to stay stable on the shelf. These just tomatoes, basil, that's it. And when you get whole tomatoes, this is the fun part, you guys. Get in there with your fingers and just kind of crush them up. I know a lot of people grew up doing this with their Nona, and they would just help crush the tomatoes for sauces. And I didn't have that experience growing up, but I can imagine just like the feeling of this.
You're getting it now. It's just the same.
It's like, I don't know. Food is sensory. Get in there. Get messy. This is what I was talking about with Schmidt Brothers and with us here at Homemade. We like to keep it approachable. Like, make a mess. Make a beautiful mess. And we don't expect every knife cut to be perfect. We want it to be yours. And big, small, chunky, that's your decision. You're in control. This is your vision. So get in there, get messy, make it yours. All right. Everyone going in the pool. We got a nice can of tomatoes going in. And I'm going to stir that through. But I will say, a good bolo needs time. Okay, there's just some things that we got to invest in cooking if you really want the full effect. And if you're going to take the time to make a bolognese, take the time to make a bolognese. If you're going to buy a knife, buy an amazing knife. Like, invest in yourselves, and the food that comes out of your kitchen and the confidence that just emanates from you will pay you back in dividends. So this needs about an hour. And what I do is, you can see it's kind of bubbling pretty vigorously. John, can we go to a top down? Lots of bubbles. I turn it down to a low. All right, and that will start to bubble. I kind of put a lid on top of it, and I just let it go. So I'm going to take this one out because we're not going to hang here for an hour. I know you guys love me, but not that much. And we already made one ahead of time, and I just want you guys to kind of see the color difference, right? I'm going to lift this one up so you guys can see. But do you guys see how rich?
Ooh, yeah. That's a different shade, for sure.
It's like a different animal, like, to have this. So this, I'm just kind of rewarm. This has been going for like 2 hours, which is awesome. And our pasta, I got to turn this puppy back up to high. There we go. So pasta's boiling, and our bolognese has had at least an hour to cook kind of on low. And you're left with just this really silky, gorgeous sauce. And the reality is, you might not need all of it. You can turn some of it into soup by thinning it out with some more stock. You could freeze some, use it for a future date. So where I was taught in a restaurant is to use what you need for the pasta that you have. So this is called kind of finishing the pasta. So I grab a big pan and stick it on the heat, and I turn this on kind of medium high, so about a 7 out of 10, okay? This looks so good. And I'm gonna go in there, first of all, I'm gonna check my pasta sitch. This guy is having a fun day. Here we go, I'm gonna make sure it's totally clean. All right, and then let's just check our pasta. It's been about 5 minutes. I can already tell it needs about another minute or two. We're gonna let that go. And I kind of look at the pasta and I think, okay, how much sauce do I need? Here in America, we tend to kind of overly sauce things and lose the pasta. So I'm gonna get in there with my ladle and start with just, a little bit of sauce in the pan.
Okay, little build.
Little build. Get where I'm going here?
Oh, I so do.
All right. And then I'm going to grab a little pasta water. And this is going to just kind of make this really nice little bed waiting for my pappardelle. You can always add more sauce, but we can't take it away, right? We all know that. So my bed is ready to go. I'm going to taste this pasta. I think we're maybe another minute, but there's no way to test if pasta's done besides just giving a little bite. So let's try. See where we're at. Oh yeah, close. Another minute. While that's happening, I am a fresh Italian parsley lover. So I'm gonna grab a nice handful of this. In the vein of not wasting anything, we take our parsley, chef knife. Let's get really close here, John. And this is how you kind of properly handle it. I find where the stems meet the leaves, and I cut it in half. Tuck my fingers back, and this is where Schmidt makes such a difference. You just kind of go through them, kind of like chives. The stems are so sweet. We let nothing go to waste here.
Sweeter taste profile than the leaves, typically?
They're crunchy, they're sweeter, yes. The leaves are more, soft and silky and beautiful. Mm-hmm. But yes, the stems themselves lend like a texture vibe. And then
Nice.
I kind of take the leaves and I just bunch them up and kind of shave them. This is what Schmidt Brothers brings. Look, it's like confetti. And you don't want to chop herbs too much, maybe once, twice through maximum, because you want to make sure you taste the herb, right? So we've got stems, herbs, put them together. This is really beautiful, almost like little fresh topper. This has been cooking for so long, a couple hours. It's so rich. It's nice to have something fresh on top. So I'm going to go in. I'm going to fish out my pasta. Look at this. And in we go.
The perfect vessel.
Doesn't that make sense? So yeah, that, you can grab a little spider if you want. That's what this is called. Let a little water fall in there. You always got to cook your pasta in the sauce. We're not going to just pour this sauce over the top. You want the pasta to kind of drink and act like a sponge to all the bolognese that you made. This is why we kind of finish it. So in we go. And I'm going to turn up the heat here and just kind of let the pasta drink and cook. And you can see, I can still see the pasta. It's not too much bolo.
Where'd our cheese rinds go?
Oh, it's coming. You just ask where the cheese, the cheese rind?
Yeah, did the rinds disappear?
In our
They
swap, we didn't
melted?
have one. That was just a little tip.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Good to know. Folks were
question,
asking
guys.
if you remove it, if it would get stuck to the noodle.
Yeah, if we had one in there, I would have totally removed it.
Nice.
Great call. Yep.
Good questions in the chat, everyone.
Great
Thank
questions
you.
in the chat. So I let this go, and you can see, you see how the sauce is kind of going away, and it's just sticking to the pasta? This is kind of dressing your pasta, almost like a salad. It's not overly dressed. It's not soggy. It's not getting lost. It's just balanced. This looks so good. If it starts to get dry, or you want maybe a little more bolo in there, I'm not going to judge. Here's the bay leaf. Fish that puppy out. But you can see how much we used versus how much is still left in the pan. This looks to die for. All right. Last but not least, Parmesan cheese. You got to do it.
We
It's
need
going to...
some sort of alarm or something in here. When we say Parmesan cheese, that goes
Like, wee!
"Fwah,
Like,
fwah,
yeah.
fwah,"
Yeah,
something like that.